reflection, like 60 seconds, so you want to eat and wrap up. We'll actually get out of here a little bit early, so in about a minute we'll start reflections. We'll have our table over here come up, a few people share, and one person who waited to eat, one person who didn't wait to eat can share as well. So have a few of these guys share, and then a few of you share. So in about 60 seconds, we'll bring it back in, all right? Cool.
Did it last year, yeah.
Yeah. Yep, I was jealous then, and I'm still jealous now.
Have you done the Italy trip?
Yeah, 2 weeks in Italy. Yeah, I did that in 2017.
Do they go to Florence at all for that?
You can if you want to. It's for, like, you have a free weekend to yourself, so you can choose to go to Florence or Pompeii or anywhere else you want to go. I didn't. Like, me and another girl elected to just stay at the villa, and then we went into Rome instead and just spent a free day in Rome, just wandering and getting hopelessly lost and finding weird little nooks and crannies in the city, which was really cool. Mm-hmm. And also it was a lot more low-key, because everyone else got back from Florence and Venice and all those places, and it just was so white. So I actually had a pretty restful, relaxing weekend.
There you go.
And we wanted to go to Anzio Beach because I'm a huge World War II fan, and that's where a lot of the Allied forces landed on Anzio Beach. But then we got incredibly confused by the bus system because it's really, really, really confusing. And ended up going back to the villa and spending the day napping. Yeah, still had a good day. But I definitely got the travel bug after that trip.
Sure.
So after graduation, I'm actually taking a trip to Iceland by myself.
Oh, Iceland.
Yeah.
Why Iceland?
I don't really know.
Okay.
It just, yeah, I don't really know. It just seems really cool. And it's not like everyone goes to like Italy or
Europe.
Great Britain or Europe in general. So I wanted to do something a little bit different, a little bit more off the beaten trail. And Iceland is actually beautiful.
Yeah, I've seen a TV show that actually went there for vacation. So.
Okay.
All right.
Terrible.
Okay, we back at
like
it, guys.
House or something.
Back here, please.
Went and did
I need somebody who did not wait to eat to come speak on why they didn't wait, and somebody who did wait to eat or was an ally, maybe the cookie sneaker or the peanut peddler, and then we'll have the oppressed or this minority, because you might think they were oppressed, but the minority table come testify, like three folks with them. So 60 seconds, 30 seconds, about 60 seconds or so, you talk about what were your thoughts and feelings. Anybody who waited to eat or didn't wait to eat, who wants to come share? No judgment here, it was just a social experience. And the food was good. I empathize. Anybody who waited to eat who wants to come up or was an ally to this group? Don't be ashamed. You're belly full now. Anybody who wants to... No, ally. Any ally who wants to come talk about why they were an ally, et cetera, et cetera. You in the pink shirt. Awesome. And anybody who didn't wait to eat, you didn't owe them anything, to be honest. You just had access to food at the time you wanted food, so you ate. You know, come talk about it. You know what I mean? So you had access when you had access. You were hungry, you ate. She did, and she gave up some of her privilege or did some other stuff. So, what's your name?
Kira.
Kira, come on down. Go ahead, you clap for us.
I wasn't really sure what to do in this situation. My whole table was kind of collaborating on the choice that we should make. Some of us thought, like, yeah, we should go take their places, and I tried to do that, and I got shut down. I probably should have pushed harder and done it, but I wasn't really sure. It was really hard to make a decision, but I did wait to get food. And yeah, that was my experience.
Why did you? Why?
Why? I just thought when I went up to take a place, you had said that you deserve this, like you worked for your food, and I thought that they put the same effort in as I did because I didn't. I just sat and was told I could go.
Say that again?
I was just there, and I was told that I had the privilege to go. So I could have taken that opportunity and gone, but I didn't think that I did any more than you guys sitting at this table.
Where are you giving up space in your life? Or creating space for other people?
I don't know, that's a hard question, but...
It's fine. No judgment. But I thank you for participating. She was pretty aggressive. She was like, I want to take this space. I'm like, no, you worked for that. Get back over there. Did you wait to eat?
I did, yes.
Okay. So how did you feel? Because they were the last day in general, just with them waiting and them blindfolded.
Oh, I was hungry. I wanted to eat. I was going to sneak a piece of my chicken. But once they all sat down, then my whole table started eating. We all waited.
Nice. That's what's up. Thank you so much. Say your name again.
Kira.
Kira. Awesome. All right, I'm waiting for the one brave soul who ate. I'm going to talk about why they ate. Again, it's just, listen, you're not going to go to jail, you're not on trial. Your student fees pay for this meal, so you just have food in front of you. Anybody who ate, you want to come? You, ma'am? Absolutely, come on down. Show us some love, man. Put your hands together.
Okay, I'm Kate, and I sat at the back table, which was one of the first people who got let go to eat. And our table kind of discussed, like, what are we going to do? Like, should we do this? And everybody at my table chose to go and eat except for one person. Shout out to Andrew. And we, I guess, like, our discussion, we talked about, like, this is a simulation. We wanted to make sure that there were both sides of the simulation being shown. So that's why we decided to eat.
Utilitarian.
But then also, like, we were thinking, like, you know, they're going to be released in an order anyway. So, like, if this was, like, a wedding or something, you know, and you were released to the buffet, and this was just the last table to, you know, they're still getting food, but they're just getting it last. Not that that's fair. I totally agree with this simulation and, like, showing that some people aren't, like, as privileged as others for not, like, a specific, you know, not, like, a valid reason. So it was just, we just chose to do it.
Gotcha. What would you do or want somebody to do if you were at that table?
If I was at that table, I would want to, like, well, I want to make sure that to help.
They almost protested. And I was like, yeah.
Well, that was something we talked about. We were like, should we even go up? Like, but then, like, when we were deciding our choice, but then you're like, no, you should get your food. At least go get your food. And you were very like, go eat, go eat, go eat. So we're like, well, we should. But yes, I think you should definitely, like, protest and make sure to, like, have your voice be heard. So, like, when Kira was, like, trying to, like, help them and, like, switch places with them, I think, like, that was, like, a good way to stand up for those people and try to, like, really make sure that they are, like, is accepted and that, like, you, if they're going to struggle, you're going to struggle with them.
Would you take a plate from somebody else, even if it cost them something in that moment? somebody came and gave you a plate at that table?
I'm sorry, can you
Would you take the food if somebody came and brought you food?
if I was at that table?
Yeah.
I think I would, because I'd be hungry.
Yeah?
So I
I'd take
think
the
I
risk to
would.
bring it to you. Cool. Say your name again, I'm sorry.
I'm Katie.
Thank you so much for coming up.
Yes.
It's been awesome. I know this is like pretty obvious and we already got the idea, but it's different in theory to know something and believe it than to have to practice it, right? And live it. A few people asked me for water. And I really did mean partially, of course it was a little slanted, but I really did mean in some ways the non-judgment piece. Because it was like, hey, you were just born into this, live this life. So it's not wrong per se to have access, to have wealth or education or whatever, but it can only be wrong if we don't admit and acknowledge other people's reality. You know what I mean? Just because it's not yours, and it's not your, or your social status doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, or you can't be empathetic, or give space. Create a space. You know what I mean? Like say, you're in a place of privilege and you got a space or a platform for somebody to talk or share their feelings, then you can be like, hey, and we know you, what's up, Sam? Hey, how you doing? I'm in the country club. Who's this other person? Oh, they with me. Come on, talk. That's like creating space, right? And we know that everybody is on country club level. I'm not saying that to be facetious or coy. I'm just saying about creating space and having empathy. All right, my minorities, how y'all doing? You guys ready? That hunger has faded away some. I should have brought you up here while you were parched. If you, you couple guys want to come up and share, come on up. It doesn't matter. There you go. Let's show them some love. Let's put our hands together. For the minorities that made it out, we're brave enough to give voice. I want you guys to talk about shame too. If you have any shame, you did not like the attention of being, but you talk about whatever you want to talk about. Come on.
My name is Juan. I think one of the first things I've noticed, I thought it was kind of funny to hear like people, because I know M was trying to tell me that, because I know that M was trying to give me a cookie and they were trying to be quick, they're like raisin or peanut butter, and I was like, I don't know, the peanut butter. And when I felt the cookie in my hand, I was like, well, I can't see. I was one of the blindfolded ones. So I didn't know if everyone else around me was eating. And I didn't want to be one of the only ones eating. I wanted to make sure that everyone around me was eating in that space. And I think another thing for me was the whole protesting thing. How my team was trying to protest, like, oh, the 4 people that were mad, were like, let's go guide the blindfolded to the line. And I was like, you know what, let's just wait. But they were actually trying to protest, and then he came along and was like, no, I'm gonna call the cops, and everything just shut down. And I was just like, yo, now I kind of want to protest. And, you know, I grew up like in Dallas. I grew up in a not so good neighborhood, and then we somewhat moved to a pretty good neighborhood. And my parents had the fight taken out of them. Like to the point that my mom was like, make sure you're safe, like don't do anything dumb. And I've been to a few protests in Dallas. In fact, I was there when the shooting happened for Black Lives Matter, where officers were killed in front of me. For me, I just wanted my friends to be safe. I would like, do non-violent protests. Don't do anything dumb from there. And then once the shooting happened, you know, I was terrified for them, but I was also terrified for everyone else around me. You know, it's just that kind of fear that I never want to experience, but at the same time, it's something that's going to happen because we're all fearful for something. I'm fearful of the protests at times because I don't know if something like that is going to happen again. But that's just something I wanted to do when they were like, hey, once he said something about the cops, I'm like, no, let's just actually protest. Because like, they're always going to try to bring fear into us, and they're always going to try to break us down.
Thank you.
So going off of that, so I'm Jack, senior, and I got a very different take. Coming from New York, that's where I'm originally from, I come from a family that we have a lot, and I'm happy and blessed to have a lot in my life. And I've also lived across the world, and I've been in contact with communities that have had a lot less than me, but until today I've never really been in a situation where I've been part of a group that has the same amount as everyone else or has the same resources, but is simply told, you can have this, but you guys can't. And it really spoke, and to me specifically, because it felt really, it was very unnerving to be in that situation, to have a blindfold over my eyes and not be able to see. And those blindfolds were really painful. I'm sorry, I gotta say it. They were not the most comfortable blindfolds, but not being able to see and only being able to hear about what's going on around me really threw me for a loop. And it puts into a new perspective where it just reaffirms my idea that no one should have to go through that, because we are all, especially in this country, we all have so many resources out there. Why do certain people have to be restricted to those resources? Everyone should have the same opportunity.
I got a question for you. Thank you for sharing. That was beautiful. Did you feel any emotion like of anger or shame? Did you feel like you didn't want to stand up because you bring more attention to yourself? Or were you like, kind of angry, but were you comfortable being publicly angry with this process?
I didn't really feel angry as much as I felt just very, very uncomfortable. I didn't know what to do. For the most part, I just sat in my seat and either what I felt was looking down in my lap or really just trying to listen to the conversations around me. At one point, I was snuck a cookie, and I'm not going to lie, I did have a cookie before I ate. And I was given what he called ration water. And
Welfare water.
Welfare water, thank you. And when he put the glass in front of me and I felt it in my hand, I did not know if it was actually water. I thought he was playing a trick with me. I thought he was going to give me coffee, and I hate coffee.
You couldn't trust the system.
But then I heard other people say, no, it's just water, and I finally drank it. Yes, it was water. So for me, it was just more or less feeling really uncomfortable in my situation and not knowing what to do with the fact that I couldn't see or do anything in my situation.
One last question. How did you feel when she was reading the menu off? Something you couldn't see but only hear about? Or did that even touch you?
Well, I could picture it in my mind, and it made me think, why can't I see it? Like, I want to see it so bad, and all I can do is picture it, but I can't get it. Why can't I get it? And it made me think of why, just because someone told me I can't get it means that I really can't get it. It seemed very wrong. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm Hannah. I was the spokesperson, so most of the time I wasn't busy being mad that I wasn't eating because I was just waiting the whole time. I also took some cookies when I wasn't supposed to and shoved them in my pocket so that he wouldn't notice. So I guess I stole the cookies. And one of the biggest observations that I made was that at the beginning, all of you, because I didn't have a blindfold on, I just had a mask, I noticed that all of you were kind of like staring more and like wondering if you should eat or not, and then towards the end, you all kind of turned your backs and just started eating and weren't like so much aware of what was going on, or you were, but at that point you didn't care as much. So I thought it was interesting how like
Take your time, you got it.
like the glances over towards our table like decreased throughout the thing. Also something like I never felt like mad that you guys were eating because I was just like, oh, I'll get it in a bit. I didn't like want you guys to suffer just because we were. So for me, it wasn't like a big deal you were eating. I just found it interesting how you felt guilty about it. And then eventually didn't so much. Some of the interesting comments. Deja kept saying, this isn't fair. I don't like this. People were saying like the fruit and drink sounds so good. When that was after the menu was described, I just kept thinking, oh, I have stuff in my refrigerator when I get back to my dorm or home. Kira tried to help, which was really nice. That was noticed. A lot of people didn't have any idea what was going on. We all wanted to protest, and even when you told us not to go, we all still debated if we should just storm up and eat. And it's only 15 minutes, but then you said 15 minutes a couple of times, so we didn't really know if you were going to eat or not. And there was like nothing physically stopping us from going. We were just continually told we couldn't go, so that's why we thought we could protest. Yeah, I think that was our biggest observations. There's some more, but yeah.
Great. Can you say your name again?
I'm Hannah.
Hannah, how do you feel about the time? Like, oh, you'll get it this time. Like, get it then. Like, what did that do to you guys' morale?
I mean, that was a little like taunting, I guess, because it was just like, oh, we got our hopes up and then we didn't, and we had to wait more. So, I mean, it was only like a couple minutes, but
You got your what up?
What?
You got your what up?
We got our hopes up.
What's hope?
Just like you're wanting something, like you keep thinking you're going to get something, so you kind of like get happy ahead of time for something you might get later.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Emily. One of my observations during this was that I didn't really want people to help me. Now I feel really bad. Em tried to sneak me a cookie, and I was like panicked because I'm like, someone's there and they're trying to give me something, and I was like freaked out. And I suppose that maybe there's a deeper meaning, like, oh, I don't want to like bother people and make them have to help me. I don't really know if that is what it was, but no, maybe it's. I think I just like to do things myself and be able to achieve by myself, and I think that's partly. I don't know. I wanted to wait and just wait to eat. And I don't know. I didn't want to have someone else get in trouble. I didn't want to get in trouble because I never like getting in trouble, and so. I guess that's sort of what I took away from it. I just wanted to be patient, and like I appreciated people that helped, but I was like also uncomfortable because I didn't want to get in trouble and I didn't want them to get in trouble. But yeah.
That's great. So you had a self-efficacy approach. Did it make sense that you would get in trouble to want to go eat at the same time everybody else?
I mean, obviously you're not gonna like call the police if you go eat.
Right.
But I mean, in a real life scenario, that would be pretty scary, and I wouldn't risk it.
Did it change your condition that you were upstanding and you wanted to earn it or whatever? Did it change your status? Did it give you more access that you wanted it the right way, or anybody else's view of you? So you said you wanted to do it. You wanted to wait. You don't want anybody to help you. Did that change the fact that you were a minority and you didn't have access? So you had a self-efficacy, independent approach, and you wanted to do it the right way.
Yeah.
But if you stepped out of line in your social status, you'd be condemned. Is that right?
I don't really know. Confusing me. I'm sorry.
Do you think you had the right attitude about your standing in the room? Like, was your attitude better than one of the protesters?
I don't think I'm better than anyone, but I don't know. I don't think my attitude was better. I think it was just, I don't know.
No, don't feel pressured.
I'm
I'm sorry. No, I'm just saying, like, you guys get what I'm saying. She wanted to do it the right way, work for it, be self-efficacious, wait it out. Some of these other people wanted to protest. Who had the better approach? Or did that change how the majority saw them as a whole anyway?
I mean, like you mentioned, time.
Yeah.
Like, you just gotta wait sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
Was time on your side?
I mean, even though you kept saying 15 more minutes several times,
Was it on your side?
I don't really know.
Side?
But
No, that's cool. Say your name again.
Emily.
Emily, thank you guys so much. Thank you. I feel like my grandmother is watching me somewhere with this hat on in the room, and I should take it off. I'll take it off. My grandmother was first cousin with Fannie Lou Hamer, and they were really close. The lady who said, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired," civil rights activist. She charged the floor of the Democratic Convention in '64 to make them recognize black delegates. So Fannie Lou Hamer. But in short, can we give a round of applause again for this table right here? One of the biggest crimes to these guys was time. There was something promised, one, their status in life wasn't really determined by them. There was something promised, access to food, to resources, housing, education, legal representation. And it was promised that it would get better, or they would get it, and they didn't get it when they were supposed to get it. And if they stepped out of line, even though we knew it was an experiment, to be honest, did some people kind of look at them differently? Like, it's human nature to be like, oh, that's them and this is us, right? Imagine if this table, although marginalized and oppressed, had a historicity or a culture or heritage of people who actually worked in this country or to build this room, right? Imagine if their families built this room and painted the room and the table and did the electricity work and all that. Not that all the minorities did all the work to build the nation, but we obviously know what I'm hinting at. We're talking about 300 years of slavery. We're talking about that industry that funded the Industrial Revolution, that it then grew this nation in a lot of ways, bodies to fight wars, 3/5 of man. So not only do you don't get access to the current resources, your families actually put in work to build this room, to establish Ripon as a school. I could say I like polysyllabic words, and I try to be erudite and eloquent, and I like speeches, and I like listening to them. I know a lot of Martin Luther King ones. But I felt like this workshop would be more impactful with something like this happening, versus just a PowerPoint and me talking pretty words. And half of you guys are like, I like them. The other half, like, I could have been asleep, but I ain't good. How long will it take? How long will prejudice blind the divisions of men? It won't be long. Truth crushed earth shall rise again. How long? Not long. Because no lie can live forever. How long? Not long. Because though the arc of the universe is long, that meta-narrative bends towards justice. How long? Not long. Truth on the scaffold, God sitting behind the throne, keeping watch on his own. How long? Not long. Oh, be jubilant, my feet. God is judging men's heart before his judgment seat, sifting through their hearts like wheat. How long? Not long. Mine eye have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. How long? Not long. Glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. God's truth is marching on. How long? Too long. I was an activist in Milwaukee who shut down the freeway for Dr. Hamilton, who was shot 14 times in the park by an officer there. The family waited 8 months for the DA to make a decision. On December 19, 2014, two organizations planned to protest. People drove on the freeway, and bystanders walked, and a separate protest organized and blocked the ramps. How long? Not long came into place, because after being shot 14 times, DA hadn't made a decision. We protested. We didn't have a voice. We didn't have space. So we made space. On a holiday weekend, 74 people got arrested for protesting. We clogged like the intake. There was a big cell of women, and then all the guys got processed later. And when we walked past, all the ladies went, one of the best feelings. But it's 2019. I don't know which side you guys fall on, politically or even economically. Martin Luther King said something today. We talked about time, we talked about access, we talked about giving a voice. He said it's, in the drum major speech, it's either nonviolence or non-existence. This is a volatile time. We see shutdowns, we see arguments, we see race riots, potentially, or high tension. We wonder, if I was born in a certain time, what would I do? Well, you're born now. Martin Luther King said he would choose to be born the time he was born. We have a lot of comforts and a lot of access. And if just because in Ripon it's not an issue, or this other place, it won't be. All Shakespeare quote. He said, "The world is a stage or every man gets but a verse in their own play." We got a verse, y'all. Today is 2019. You can do something. Research what you talk about. Just don't listen to pundits or whatever outlets you listen to. Actually check out what they say. Hear people cross-examine. I'm not here to entertain as much, and I actually enjoy entertaining. I think I'm kind of funny. But shout out to Kiana. Thank Kiana for bringing me out. But today it's time for us to do something. I'm 33. I just turned 33. And I've been in college and I'm going back. It's time for us to do something. It's time for us to know what we're talking about. It's not to just be parents, but I listen to a lot of his sermons like they just lectures. And I'm like, God, wow, this guy was dynamic. He said the fierce urgency of now, like 50 years ago, there could really be a non-violence or non-existence. I just thank you guys for your time. I thank Kiana and Rippin. I thank my beautiful lady over there, Yasmin, for fighting with that computer. And I'm thankful that my lived experience and education allowed me to be here at this moment. And who knows, maybe you guys will have me back, but this was fun. Round of applause for yourself, and I just thank you for this. And remember this is a joke. You'll rarely have a speaker who will come and leave early. You're welcome.
Once again, we want to thank Sam for coming here and showing us how to be a leader through the eyes of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We appreciate you coming from all the way from Milwaukee, sharing those stories, and helping us be a leader once again. Thank you very much. So now I would like to invite the co-directors of the Center for the Politics and the People to join me on stage, as this is a co-sponsored event. I meant to say that in the beginning. So this event was brought to you by the Center for Diversity and Inclusion and the Center for the Politics and the People. And they wanted to shout out their upcoming event they have. Henrik O'Brien. And don't forget, MLK Week has been moved to April 1st through April 7th. So much in store for that week, including a trip to Memphis, Tennessee. So get ready for it.
Let's have a shout out for Kiona. She really worked hard to make this event. It's been an honor for the center to co-sponsor this event. We're going to have another event co-sponsored on February 20th right here at Great Hall. The Center for Politics and the People and DREAM, Disability Rights and Education and Action Network at Ripon, and the Psi Chi Honor Society of Psychology, all co-sponsoring a panel on the mental health needs of young Americans today and the challenges these present to public policy. And so from 6:30 to 7:45 here on February 20th, we're going to have 4 professionals who will be speaking. Dr. Sarah Reed, who is a psychologist at Rogers Memorial Hospital here in Wisconsin, and who works with the Wisconsin Initiative for Stigma Eradication on Mental Health. Lindsay Lowe, who works here in Ripon as therapist in collaborative wellness. Rory Linane, who is a journalist with the Gannett Network and who has written extensively on teen suicides. And finally, Dr. Alan Borsuk, who is the journalist in residence at Marquette Law School, who tracks educational policy and budgetary issues in the schools of Wisconsin. He'll be speaking about mental health issues. So we hope you can come to that event, and that important event, on February 20th here in Great Hall. Thank you.
Thank you again all for coming this evening and participating again. Thanks also to all of our volunteers.
Have a great evening, and remember, the time is always right to do what is right. Enjoy.